One of the things that can come up, particularly around occupation, or how someone's living their life in terms of values, is that we draw our values from different things. We draw them from our family, our culture, our faith practices, from what has been taught to us, from our, the systems in our society. And sometimes those align really well with what is important to us. Other times, though, there is a conflict between my culture or the traditions or my family system really values X, but when I really pause to think about it, that doesn't really matter to me. And one of the ways we can get at this distinction is asking someone where that came from. And oftentimes when you hear values that maybe aren't derived or aren't feeling very connected from the client, the way that they describe it feels a little bit different. So they might say something and your mind just pauses and it's like, where did that come from? Or like, that was in someone else's voice, or that doesn't feel really consistent with anything else you've told me. If that's the case, say that. And there's a way to do that. You don't have to have as much of a shocked face as on your expression as I did, but pausing and going, hey, I wanted to ask you a question. You seemed really animated when you were talking about volunteer work or your friend group or whatever it is. But when you talked about this one aspect, your tone changed. And I'm just wondering where that value originated from. And while it can be difficult, it is okay if the things that maybe we were taught or that we was told to us were of utmost importance aren't. It doesn't mean that we think they're terrible. It doesn't mean that we hate them or that we reject them. It's just not the guiding force in our life right now. And if there is that disconnect, respect might be one of the values. How can I respect the differences between what is important to me and what's important to my parents? What's important to me and what's important to my faith group or my culture or my tradition or my upbringing? And so we can highlight that, we can respect those differences while still giving us the space to live our own life. But if you're listening to a client and something feels surprising to you, ask them about it. Where did that come from? How does that show up in your life? What would that look like? Or even just straight up saying, I keep feeling like when you bring up this value that there's like a should behind it, that your mind is saying, I should care about this. Like, am I off base? Does that sound accurate? And listen for shoulds. Oh, I should say this. I should say that. I'm supposed to. Those are all potential indications that that value is not coming from within a person, but it is coming from someone else's belief system. And again, we're showing respect to that system, particularly if it's connected with someone who's important to them. But that doesn't mean it needs to be our guiding force. And the way we can get at values in a different way is using the 80th birthday exercise. Just make sure someone is maybe, I did this once and someone was 81 years old. So we had to adjust it a little bit. But what it is it's having someone close their eyes, take a couple breaths, just center and ground themselves, and then have them imagine that they're at their 80th birthday. They are in whatever place they want to be, surrounded by whoever is important to them. And you can add in, even if this person might not have made it to your 80th birthday. This comes often with pets or parents, people who would understandably have passed by the time that you get to that 80th birthday, but really making it clear, like, they're still there. They're still able to come and join the 80th birthday party. And have them really think through, where are they? Are they in that dream home? Are they at their favorite restaurant? Are they out in nature? Who's there? Who showed up? Like, can we pause? Can we really picture what we might look like? That might tap into some of those health values of, you're not like in bed hooked up to machines, but you're able to walk around, for example. You feel maybe really strong in your body. And then picture someone who's important to them standing up and giving a toast. What would you want that person to say? And I always add the caveat, not what you think they would say, but like, what would you want that person to say if they were celebrating your 80th birthday? Because if we're feeling really maybe down or disconnected, we can have a negative idea of what this person's saying. Like for Jack, for example, he might be like, oh, well, my wife speaks up and says, like, I never got to spend any time with him because he was too busy working. It's like, okay, no. If we were able to connect with our values and go through life in that way, what would you want her to say on your 80th birthday about the time that you've had together in your life or what you meant to them? And then once one person says something and they would share out loud what that person's saying, ask them to pick a different person from a different area or domain of their life. So it might be a friend, it might be a mentor, a parent, a child that they haven't had yet, a coworker, an employee, if they're a business owner. And based on what the people are saying in the toast, that can highlight what is important to them. And so when that exercise ends, one, we just want to debrief. What was that like? To get to that point, how would you be showing up to your life? What would be important? What would you be focusing your attention on? Do you think if you continued living your life the way you currently have been, that you would get to that point? Right? So that's again highlighting the unworkability of it. And then using that as a starting point for exploring values. Now, for some people who struggle with kind of imagination and visualizations, that might be a little bit difficult for them. And if they're having trouble picturing it, that's okay. Right? It could just be voices. You could just be listening to an audio recording of it instead of, actually there watching the whole thing. Another way that you can look at it is if someone important in your life is leaving you a voicemail on your phone. Maybe they're just like having a day where they're reminiscing, and they were leaving you a voicemail or they were writing you a card, just saying, holiday card or birthday card. What would they write in there? And that might be an easier way to get at those values if the visualization aspect of it is really hard for a client. We're just creating an opportunity to reflect if they had lived their life in the way that they wanted to, that was meaningful to them.